The proud South African Republic bears a historical burden. In 1948, at the time of the establishment of apartheid and the establishment of apartheid in Palestine, the Nakba, this was very much against the grain of the global shift. This was a time of decolonial score settling and independence for people across the global south. But both the Palestinians and the South Africans were cursed in that their settler colonial endeavors which were visited upon them took place against the shift of history. And what South Africa has done is push us towards the birth pangs of a new world. What South Africa has done is not put Israel on trial at the International Court of Justice. It's put the International Court of Justice on trial. This case will determine the integrity of this institution going forward. And I'm sure I speak for every single person in this room. Across these last 3 months, we have cried in ways we did not know were possible. We have seen scenes of human suffering that we never thought we would see. We've seen dead children, more than we could ever have imagined that we have seen. And the proud Republic of South Africa is soothing our hearts. When we look at this service to humanity, which is being carried out on behalf not just of the state of South Africa, and not just on behalf of the Palestinians in Gaza, this service of humanity is being carried out for the majority of human beings in the world today. They look at the immense human suffering in Gaza and their natural aversion to that type of violence, and they would seek ways to ameliorate that suffering. And in this, we see the revenge of history. Let us not forget, when the global tide was turning against minority apartheid rule in South Africa, Israel in 1975 established the Joint Secretariat for Political and Psychological Warfare with the apartheid rulers in South Africa. Of course, in 1948, the very first foreign dignitaries which were accepted by Ben Gurion, Israel's leader, were of course from apartheid South Africa. Across the period of the apartheid government's dealings with Israel, you had Israel helping build the wall along the border, a precursor to the wall that we see in the West Bank. Of course, during the time of Wyatt Rhodesia, the Israelis also built a wall to separate people and keep people out. We saw Elbit Systems, Israel's largest arms company, be responsible for setting up the electronics military industry in South Africa. The South African Special Forces, which used to go out and murder. We look at some of the greatest figures of history, from Steve Biko to Ruth First. When Ruth First was assassinated with a letter bomb, we have reason to believe it was Israeli intelligence services which advised directly on that operation, because they led the same kind of operation in Lebanon against the PLO with letter bombs and whatnot. We saw numerous ways in which apartheid Israel and apartheid South Africa were bonded. And the response of the Republic of South Africa has been to cling to the hands of the most downtrodden in Gaza. And for that, we can never thank you enough. They tell us that resistance is futile. What we say to them is resistance is fertile. And we will continue to plant seeds for trees, even if we don't sit in the shade of them. Thank you very much for having me.